less stall, more ball, fewer infractions. This begins in 2020. The future is near. More access, more everyone, more everything.
March 20th,
This is our
2019.
moment.
Show
Our story
number
to
7.
tell. This is history begun. This is the XFL.
What is up, my friends? Welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I am your host, The Mark, and on this week's show, will your call football work? We'll get into what that actually is. XFL kick return, what Oliver Luck likes and doesn't like about the AAF, and so much more. Welcome to the show. So how do you get in touch with the show? You email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3 or your thoughts, or hit us up on the Twitter using the hashtag XFLWIR. Cutoff time, remember, is 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. And also, please leave us a review on iTunes and we'll read it on the next show. Now, for this question of the week, we're going to get into what your thoughts are, your call football. If you're like, what's your call football? We'll get into that. I'll explain that in a minute. Let me just say, my friends, it was a slow week. Nothing really happening. A couple of interviews that Oliver Luck did during the week. We have a recap of those things. No new coaches, team names, TV deals, none of that stuff. We wait in bated breath. You know, it could be that it was the NFL trading deadline or not the trading deadline, but the NFL signings and March Madness. WWE's WrestleMania is right around the corner. Maybe that has something to do with maybe XFL is trying to pull back. I wouldn't see why it would have anything to do with WrestleMania. I would want to keep knocking out these coaches. Maybe they decided to take a break and they'll get into it this week. So stay tuned to XFL News Hub for all that breaking news when it comes to your league and my league, the XFL. So, without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. So the XFL announced that they are testing new rules under consideration before its February 2020 kickoff with Your Call Football, YCF. Testing occurred during the YCF practices in March. A couple times in March. During each practice, YCF coaches are working closely with the XFL's football operations team to employ rules the league has researched and developed since announcing its return over a year ago. Quote, "We're impressed with the innovative game Julie and her team are building and excited with this partnership with Your Call Football gives us an opportunity to test out rules we're considering in real time," said XFL CEO and Commissioner Oliver Luck. "We believe that testing and retesting the changes we're contemplating is essential to achieving our goal of reimagining the sport and putting a great game on the field next February." Quote, "We are equally excited to partner with a great brand like the XFL," says Julie Merginger, president of Your Call Football. "Our high-caliber football allows the XFL to test new features as they get ready for 2020. It also is a great partner with Oliver and his team as they reimagine football since it aligns with our strategy of innovating the fans' experience through live play calling." So what is Your Call Football? It is in its second series, which began February 25th at the Dreamfinders Homes Flex Field at Daly's Place, home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Your two YCF teams are led by former NFL running back Merrill Hodge, who was on ESPN, and former NFL defensive back Solomon Wilcox, who's been all over the media, NFL media as well after his career was over. They provide fans with a selection of 3 plays to vote on, and the majority play is then executed live on the field. The free YCF app is available for download at the App Store or on Google Play. And they have games streamed throughout the week. Stay tuned to their website to get details on that. They're based in Newton, Massachusetts. Your Call Inc. puts fans in control of live games, transforming spectator sports into interactive, social, and competitive experience, a concept originated by industry luminary George F. Colony in 2013, privately held. The company's leadership team is comprised of executives, blah, 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 blah. You can check them out at www.yourcallfootball.com. So what exactly is Your Call Football? It is an app that's on your phone, and in real time, it gives you an option of 3 plays. You pick the play that you like the best, and out of all those plays, those are the plays that are used during the game. Now, how the XFL might incorporate this, or is the XFL just using their playing as a way to test their new rules, or whether they're actually going to implement Your Call Football, those are to be determined. They're just trying to work out the rules right now, and maybe they're just having that partnership name there. I'm not sure about this. Because first of all, the lag time between the plays being called and then TV, that's going to be off. So I'm on the phone and I'm looking and I'm going to call the play. And meanwhile, the TV is way behind. And then I get to see the play executed before I see it on TV. How does that work? I haven't played it with it yet. Download it, check it out. Later on in the show, we get fans' reaction to what they think of Your Call Football. But leave a comment, message us, let us know what you think about Your Call Football and if it will work. Oliver Luck hit the radio rounds the last week or so. We got some quick tidbits. First, he was on the Dan Le Batard show on ESPN for a quick 10-minute chat talking all things XFL. Some interesting things to note here for fans. Once one of Vince's people reached out to Oliver Luck while he was living in Indianapolis working for the NCAA. He and Vince met several times and talked about his vision for the XFL and what didn't work in the past before taking the job. He said AAF's success is a good sign for spring football and that AAF is not a rival. He views AAF more like college conferences versus competing for time head-to-head. He said there's plenty of space for spring football teams. The biggest mistake the old XFL made was not respecting the game. Too many gimmicks. The football play matters most to fans. Luck says he likes the current play in the AAF. He said one issue that he doesn't like is the AAF starting on the 25-yard line without a kickoff. He thinks kickoff return is a very fun part of the game. They want to keep that part of the game as well as making sure it's safe for the players. But one issue he did bring up, and that's a really good point, is that forget about quarterbacks. And we've talked about the past with the tier system, with tier 1 player gets $250,000, then you have 3 tier 3 players or 3 tier 2 players, and then so down and so forth. And everybody's talking quarterback or defensive back. Offensive lineman is huge. It's hard, and something that he brought up in this interview was that the NFL has a problem getting good offensive linemen, and he thinks that the offensive lineman play in the AAF has not been very good. And that's one issue that both leagues are going to have to deal with when it comes to their sport to really survive, is what is the offensive line play going to be like? He also took a stop at the Big Play podcast, which was on Facebook Live. Maybe we should do a Facebook Live with our show. Maybe as things get closer. I haven't know about that yet. Same kind of wrap up where just people were asking him questions. Again, the people that are interviewing Oliver Luck aren't really XFL nerds like us. So they're not really asking the questions that I want to ask. Like, are you interested in the past with, you're going to bring back Tommy Maddox and Rod Smart? What are you going to do about, what is the Super Bowl going to be? What are you going to call it? Is there a Super Bowl? There's so many questions that we have out there. Where is the location that you're going to have your camp, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a lot of this stuff he probably doesn't know, but just some interesting tidbits from that one. Again, talking about meeting with Vince McMahon on Saturdays, that the XFL was too gimmicky. The original XFL, he talked about the XFL 2001 scramble was a really bad idea, and that was the XFL's replacement instead of a kickoff. And that's the whole thing with having non-football guys making decisions, where now football dudes are making decisions. Now, one thing he made perfectly clear, and he used the word, he wants play to be crisp football, not sloppy, not with a lot of penalties. He wants a bit more scoring rather than the AAF. Again, brought up the offensive lineman thing again. One interesting note that he said the vision of the XFL coach GM comes from the days of Al Davis of the Raiders. Coaches were involved in game day play calls and picking players. So he's kind of going back to the 70s and 80s era style coach, which I thought was interesting. And he also said one of the nice things about a coach/GM is it alleviates the finger pointing between management and coaches, because the coach GM is responsible for the players. So there's only one person at fault, and it's the coach and GM, and that's kind of how they did it back in the day. And I thought that was a great way to bring that back, because I remember Pep Hamilton said that he gets to shop for the groceries too, which was really exciting for him to do, because he can get the guys that he wants. that fit his style of play so that the DC XFL team wins the first ever rebooted XFL championship, and I can be there. So, also talked about that there's 85 million football fans, and there's that void in spring that the XFL can fill. A lot of these fans, he brought up, are near major markets, and that's why the 8 cities were chosen. Unlike the AAF, they kind of went with smaller markets. The XFL was like, go big or go home. We need to tap into these more of a rabid fan base. So you have Tampa, Dallas of the Cowboys. You have the New York Jets and Giants. You have LA. You have Seattle. So they really went after tapping into that fan development. And he said also the XFL's job is not to develop players for the NFL. They're working on their league and having success with their players. All right, so that's for the news this week. We'll be back with your social media stuff right after this. There is only one place that you can get all your XFL news. That is xflnewshub.com. We go all the way back from the beginning of time for the XFL all the way up to today's stuff, where you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. All those locations to get all your XFL news. We are your number one source of XFL football news from now all the way until February 2020 kickoff. So stick with xflnewshub.com for all your latest information. Follow us on all the social medias. That's xflnewshub.com. Remember it. Write it down. xflnewshub.com. All right, we are back hitting the Twitter's coolest domain. Talking about the XFL Cities Review, Los Angeles, California. What we've been doing is some write-ups of just about the cities that are involved with XFL, just to give you a little background, what other sports franchises are there, kind of where they're playing, this type of thing. Coolest domain says, go Quakes. He's saying that the Quakes as a potential XFL name. I'm not sure that might be politically correct. We don't know about that. About our video onto the Facebooks, about our video about Vince McMahon, and we talked about this on the show, about selling the XFL brand to the AAF. Robert says, she not sell XFL to AAF, someone buy it now? Okay. So what we've been doing is taking clips from our podcast and actually making them into videos and putting them on our XFL News Hub channel. So just look up XFL News Hub on YouTube and subscribe. We're putting more content out, trying to come up with some original stuff. So stay tuned for that. The other thing I talked about last week, I said I bought an XFL hat, and it finally came in the mail. Just go to shop.xfl.com and get your hat. I posted the hat on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and a lot of people, I was like, I'm just going to throw it out here just for the XFL News Hub fans, XFL Week in Review fans, just so that they have, hey, we talked about it on the show. So I put it out there, sitting on my couch, took a picture of it. Really like it. It's very comfortable. It doesn't have the open back, which I always like to wear my hat backwards. If you see me out and about, I'm always wearing my hat backwards. I got a ton of reaction to the hat, which was great. Most people said, where can I get it? I got to get one. I would love to have one. I'd wear it every day. Awesome. People were all into it, so I just figured I'd throw it out there that, yes, people were excited. I cannot wait, and we've talked about this 1,000 times, cannot wait for team names and logos so we can start repping XFL. I'm on the lookout. I remember, I'm a WWE guy. We have allwrestling.com as well. And I remember being out and about, and when I would see somebody with like a wrestling jersey like AJ Styles or Seth Rollins, then it was always kind of like you'd give a little nod to your fellow wrestling brethren. You go Ring of Honor or something like that, then you really get a good big nod, or Bullet Club, that kind of thing. So it's fun now. Like I'm on the lookout for XFL stuff, and I haven't seen anybody wear it. I've definitely, if I see you wearing an XFL in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, I will definitely come up to you and say hello. What's up? I like your hat, shirt, whatever. Definitely be getting more gear. The family definitely is interested in getting some stuff. Shop.xfl.com for all that good stuff. So the question of the week, what do you think of this Your Call football? We asked fans, is it a good or bad idea? And leave a comment. We actually got a lot of comments. This is on Facebook. Don said, gimmicks, either be a credible league or be professional wrestling. You can't do both. Daniel, as long as it is only for one play each team, each game. I agree with that, but I don't know what the deal is with that. Daniel says, otherwise the players might as well be robots and it become a giant game of Madden. I agree with that. I've heard things like maybe one play every 4 sets of downs or something like that. And then maybe not. I don't know where I heard this. Maybe it's AAF rules. I feel like I heard this somewhere. But it was one. The idea was maybe 1 out of every 3, 1 out of the 4. Because people, if it's 4th down, everybody's going to say go for it. So clearly you don't want to do that. And clearly that's where the coaches are there for. And I think, within the last 5 minutes of the game, then the coaches will take over and call plays. But I agree. You got to be careful with that. It's a nice little thing, but it's not what's going to separate your game. I mean, like Oliver Luck has said over and over again, it's the quality of play on the field that will really count, not whether or not you can pick a play. But it's something to try. I don't have a problem with it. Tim says, hell no, just let the coaches call the game. Let your call football be its own little league. Lou, haven't read much about it, but it's a simple form. I'm not a fan. If more visiting team fans are voting, they could vote the worst play available. True. Chris says AAF uses this. I haven't seen it. Jeremy says, hashtag it's a work. David, desperate. He does bring up a good point. That's part of, I'm a software guy by trade. So I'm a software engineer by trade. You think I'm making millions of dollars off of XFL News Hub and All Wrestling? Let's put it. Am I making enough to pay even the bills? No. This is just for the love of this stuff. And I ain't making any money off of it. That's for dang sure, my friends. But as a software engineer, I'm kind of with Lou on this one about being used for evil purposes. I could totally see that. Could you imagine going to I would pick but again, any play is a good play as long as you run it right. But he brings up a good point. On to the Instagram. Antonio Leonard says, don't do it. Play real ball. Bring it back to the essence of the game, please. It is what it is, 4-2-1. What's the under and over in Vegas on seasons that the XFL exists? I'm in for 3 seasons. I think at least it'll last for 3 seasons. Dopey Adventure says, not a bad idea. The first one. Should only be used when the team is up a couple of scores or trying to burn the clock, though. Charles Kovacs, try it, see if it's good. Also, consider having the XFL season go from May to August. Football year-round would rock. That would be hot, though. In some of these cities. Even Maryland. DC. Tampa in August. Football. No, I think spring is good enough for now. And I think it could be extended some games. It's not. Hey, the AAF is succeeding. They're bringing back games on national TV. That was something that was announced this week, bringing back a couple more national televised games. So that's a good sign for the XFL. All right, so Nicholas checking in on the emailing podcast@xflnewshub.com. He says, if I was the XFL, I would not be in a rush to sign Johnny Manziel. Now, this came out on Saturday. Manziel was Monday, the announcement came that Manziel was going to the AAF. I believe it was the San Antonio team. Somebody saw Memphis or something. I was like, do they even have a Memphis team? Then I thought it was the Commanders. I don't know where. But supposedly Johnny Manziel is in the AAF and will be starting practice this week. He said, if he was cleared, I would consider it, but I wouldn't be a need or want to me. He would not even be the first quarterback I would call. Luke Falk. Second would be Terrell Pryor. Third would be Landry Jones. Fourth, shocking to some, would be DeAndre Francis. After that, it would be other quarterbacks I would call like David Falls, Davis Webb, Cardale Jones, Connor Cook, Kevin Hogan, RG3, and Seth Russell. After the draft, I would call Eric Dungy, Nick Fitzgerald, Jacob Dingala, Brad Mays, Easton Stick, Jake Browning, and if he's available, Trace McSorley on top of the other players I would call before, like D. Anthony Thomas, Jacquez Rogers, Pip. It goes through a bunch of other names, Corey Latimer, et cetera, Eddie Lacy. So he's got a bunch of other people. On the topic of coaches, again, I would love to see a coordinator who never got a shot in the XFL. Bill Lazor or Marty Morningwing. He's with the Ravens, my friend. Or guys who had limited success like Todd Haley or Mike Smith. Those are two good names right there. Todd Haley and Mike Smith. Todd Haley's name has been in the news this week about the stuff with Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger and all this other stuff. So, well, that's it. Light week. But we all think that we are going to get some announcements later on in the week. So stay tuned to XFLNewsHub.com for that. We'll get your reaction. Hopefully we'll get some things going this week. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, XFL News Hub. Basically, if you type in XFL, we're on all over YouTube. Leave us a review on iTunes. We'll read it on the show, and you can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTubes, and Stitcher. That's it for this quick week. Stay tuned. I think we're going to have a good announcement this week. Thanks for listening. God bless to you all, and I will see you all later.